Okay, hello and
Hi,
welcome.
Tales from the Shed, back in the shed.
Where we talk about wisdom for menopause and beyond. So it's wisdom for the third age, which you can also use when you're younger. So it's
Exactly.
kind of there. So
Yeah.
welcome to it. And today, Alison is going to talk about something she found in the paper.
I found it in the paper.
It's hilarious.
I thought it was hilarious. Didn't go down very well, as all I can say. So we're going to offer you this. It's his agreement. We can disagree in the shed, and we often do.
And we also give you two options, so you can sign up if you want to really decide for A or B, or at the end.
I know. So recently, you might have seen it in the news, of course, because it was a story that they could make a bad news story about, and they could make a lot of fun about it. So good old Avanti West Coast, they sent a gift out to menopausal women that were working for them, and the pack included a fan for hot sweats, a jelly baby in case you felt like biting somebody's head off, a tissue if you're feeling a bit emotional, and a paperclip to help you keep it all together. Now, they got a lot of stick. They got a lot of stick, and people were rightfully saying, "Oh, the drivers' union, as they've said, oh, they shouldn't be doing this. It's very serious and all the rest of it." And Avanti said, "Well, it is part of the thing that we're doing. We're not just doing this. It was a bit of fun. One of the people in our group thought it would be kind of, quite funny. They also do kind of support initiatives. They do internal channels. They do various other things. So it's not the only thing that they do." So I kind of thought, and I think it was the jelly baby actually that I quite liked, because the thing that, if you feel like biting somebody's head off, I just kind of thought, I just thought it kind of made me think, there's a lot of people out there talking about menopause. They're very po-faced about it because, of course, it's a very serious issue and it's horrendous and dreadful and awful. And I just thought, that's a bit of a laugh, isn't it, really? However, my friend here was not quite so convinced.
Well, it's not that I don't think there's a point in that. And I do love the idea that we shouldn't be so po-faced about it. I do get that. But I think we're sold so much that menopause is this doom and gloom temple of doom that's happening to us that we're going to head towards. And the nearer we get, the more difficult it's going to be. It's like heading towards your worst exam in the world.
It's like you're going to go to the guillotine on that particular day.
And it gets worse and worse and worse, and you're heading towards it. And how am I going to cut? And how am I going to get through it? And so we expect it to be awful. It's a terrible thing, and it's sold to us. This is my point. It's sold to us as this terrible thing. So we have to take. It's a disease. They're trying to reclassify it. The World Health Organization are trying to reclassify it as a disease. So people are going to go for all sorts of. I mean, that in itself has lots of ramifications. This is not the place for. But if we have something wrong and broken, we have to medicalize it to make it right. And we're sold this on so many subtle levels. And it's almost like it's really lovely that employers are more understanding about this, but it's still like, how are you going to face and make your diseased, broken people less diseased and broken? So it's coming through at many levels, and I just felt it was a little bit of a soft sell.
All right, you thought, yeah, because I kind of think that luckily I was not working for anybody in a sense when I went through the menopause. I just dealt with it on my own, working for myself, working from home, that kind of thing. And so I never had to deal with some symptoms that people have to. And so I felt like it and what we've seen is, menopause at work. Well, of course, we never talked about menopause anyway.
No,
because it was hidden.
That's right.
And women, you just had to get on with it. And if you couldn't cope with it, then you were somehow soft and not really truly okay. And you just had to grit your teeth and do that British, stiff upper lips. So thankfully, we moved on from that. So now it's about, yes, we can be a bit more open about, oh, I've got this menopause brain, I've got these menopause symptoms, those kind of things. And then now we're saying, employers, you should be aware of the fact that some women are going to have particular symptoms that they are going to have at work. And you just need to accommodate it.
And this is
where we got into a bit of a discussion.
Because Alison thinks some people will have these problems. And I say that's possible, but having problems is not, you don't have to have the problems. And I date that because I have been working in this field for 25 years, and I see people, it's like on another level. this might be slightly different, is you'll never have a baby, you'll never have a baby. IVF doesn't work, something else doesn't work, something else doesn't work. And for 25 years, we give the people the babies that can't have a baby. That's where we start from, the hormones. So once you accept that's a limitation, you're putting a lid on it. So my limitation is we're going from one healthy state to another healthy state. And that transition should be fairly seamless, fairly straightforward. And once you accept it's going to be either really painful and we need to look after it and solve the problems, or slightly less painful, or you could be really lucky by giving birth, really. And it's kind of like, no, if you get a great midwife and a great birth, it should be straightforward. There's a place in America that does this, that because a midwife is assigned to somebody for the 2 to 3 days, day and night, and they've got these 2 midwives that care for them, every birth is a positive birth. And 0.1% of those births need medical intervention. So we're going from the state where we have to accept that in this country now, 40% of births are C-section, which is ridiculous. We're going to, so women can't give birth, women can't pass through things, women can't pass through menopause, and we're accepting this at such a deep level. It's interesting, it's become part of our DNA.
So it kind of goes back to where we are coming from, in the sense of you don't have to suffer. So what we're saying is that, and I suppose we're in agreement about that.
Yeah.
And we're kind of maybe slightly on both sides of the divide about where that actually occurs. So I'm kind of saying, I think it's good that we're talking about this and it's more open and that people are able to own this.
But I want to
But you're saying, actually, if we were educated,
we would never have to even be facing it at work.
Yeah, because you've thought about it and you planned for it anyway.
And so we shouldn't have people that are flooding on their chairs. We shouldn't have people that are really fog-brained and can't think. We should be having people that have a little bit of discomfort, and it's worth sharing that with people and finding the answer. But once we accept that this age is suffering 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, but don't be silly, nobody's going to do 2 out of 10. it's no. We were designed to pass through this, and it's a bell curve of normal. There always is. That at this end there'll be nothing, and at that end it will be bad. But it shouldn't be the bell curve of normal,
right?
Being this is what we suffer, and I probably wouldn't have the confidence in that if I hadn't seen years and years and years of getting people from, well, I know that this is always going to be bad. I know because it's been 10 years.
It's like this. 20 years.
And
in menopause.
Doctors have told me, consultants have told me, I've had this operation and that operation, it's all terrible. Whereas I think there's an awful lot of people, and remembering it's a bell curve, not everyone's going to be the same. So we've got, it's going to be this many people, but the normal shape of the bell curve means the majority of people, by far and away the majority of people, we should have an expectation that this is going to be absolutely brilliant, not how can we manage it. And I just feel, because there's money at every level, because always follow the money, there's money in, not conspiracy theory, but there's also a lot of money with people with medical, with people following research, people wanting to sell to companies that want to be seen to be really inclusive, people that are improving their profile by doing this.
Yes. So in those terms, I think what we're kind of saying is, how do you feel about it? You see, I kind of think at the end of the day, I'd quite like a jelly baby, And you know what? Even now, because there are times, do you know what? And I'm just wondering whether I ought to do that and have that in my car. Because if I'm going along the road and I see somebody who's been a bit of a dick, I can go to.
But that's a very, and you might want to do that at work. I get that.
Yeah,
but I think it's that belittling that it's a very, women, when you get to a certain age, you're going to be different. Now, how can we make you? How can we make it? It's just selling it to women. So people come to me going, I know nothing can change. So it's kind of like people do not believe nowadays that they're going to give birth well, because nobody does. Where 30 years ago, it didn't occur. People may have a problem, but
the exception was the problem.
And the expectation was a good birth. Now the expectation and actuality is a bad birth. And I think just changing that expectation, because it's the truth. It's not just, be happy.
So I'm okay with having an expectation that you have.
Jelly babies to deep discussion.
But I think I probably was being political about jelly baby. But I mean, I think that where are we now? I think we still we're absolutely in agreement. You don't have to suffer. And I think it would be phenomenal if
we could change the expectation.
If people were at school, as well as being told, I mean, you're mostly only told a kind of physical, reproductive kind of biology stuff about kind of pregnancy, periods, all of that kind of stuff. If you were I think there is some work out there which is looking at that whole kind of relationship side of it. It isn't just that you put this here and then that is what happens as a result. But if we can actually here's the complete picture. So you start here and you get to this. And that, puberty is one end of the process and menopause is the other end of the process. This is how it is. So there would be more of an expectation, not that it was going to be awful, but that actually you should just be thinking about this a few years in advance. And like we say, planning for a great menopause, and the great menopause should be the expectation. But I think jelly babies are a good idea.
We'll leave it there.